Kim Holcomb, King TV in Seattle, Washington. Hello, you two.
Hey,
Hi,
Kim.
Kim.
Tom, it's so fun to see you smile with your teeth because I don't think I saw it in one episode. It's wonderful. I have to say, too, your portrayal at times reminded me of some of my favorite like frontmen from my favorite bands in the late 80s. I'm just curious if there was a person in real life who helped inform your performance as Dream.
I mean, there was definitely a concoction of a number of people. I think that I might keep their identity a secret because it's sort of a part of the kind of bizarre magic of creating a character is that if you sort of give away the trick, you realize that it's just stupid. But I mean, there was no bigger influence than the literature, than the books themselves. There's over 2,500 pages of them, and you can't help, having finished reading them a number of times, understand something about him and get some of him inside your blood. And then Neil made this with us, and you know, it is his soul, Sandman, and so I definitely stole some of his soul to make Dream.
Well, that's an interesting point too, Vivian, because obviously your character is slightly different than the librarian in the source material. And I'm curious how you helped create her backstory and how Neil kind of factored into that, because he said that was one of his favorite changes that was made.
I think the only difference is that they appear differently physically. Because like Tom, we've got this literature that is so rich and so deep, and the characters that Neil creates are very clear and they're very strong. And as an actor, having that as your first port of call is just like incredible. So I think that it was there, and with Neil and Alan alike, it was very collaborative. But the essence of who the character is and their starting point was already there because the literature is so rich and available. So, I mean, the only difference is that they appear differently, but the essence of who that character is essentially the same. And I hope I, have portrayed that.
Right. Well, now you are both obviously incredibly familiar with both the source material and the series. I'm curious, other than the characters that you play, is there another character who you found yourself identifying with?
I've watched all the episodes. I mean, I'm completely, I'm in this now, but I'm such a fan of this now. And I was saying earlier, I was speaking to Tom about this, each episode I personally felt like I could relate to a lot of the characters. To pick one, I would find really difficult because this is such, it's stories about the human condition. So even the characters that you might think is the most evil and horrid or whatever, there's something that Neil does so exquisitely that I think is why the work is so important and why people are obsessed with it, that gives this like humanity and empathy, and you start questioning yourself and going, oh my God, like that's a part of me. Because when we dream, it's all the parts of ourselves that maybe we don't expose in the real world. And I think that is captured so wonderfully in The Sandman. So I don't think I could pick a character because I just feel an affiliation to so many of them. I mean, I don't know if that's wrong or right, but...
I pick Lucifer.
No, that's fair. What did you say, Tom? Sorry.
I pick Lucifer.
Okay. At least you didn't say the Corinthian, because then I might have just... been a little concerned.
I love the Corinthian. I feel for the Corinthian.
Vivian's in love with the Corinthian.
I feel for the Corinthian a little bit.
Oh, I love him. I just don't want to feel like I relate to his hobbies.
Oh God,
maybe.
Do I need more therapy?
For sure. But that's a different conversation.
I'm curious too. I have to ask you. So I watched the entire series in about 3 days. Amazing. And it has occupied every space in my brain since. And I had super weird dreams last night, like super weird. And I'm curious, what did you guys dream about in the course of shooting this? And did it get into your mind and subconscious?
I mean, definitely got into my mind. I mean, mainly, I was just trying to find Morpheus in my dreams so I talked to him about how to play the part. But he was very respectful of my process and he just gave me some space.
I think for me, I remember at one point I was reading the script, listening to Audible, and had the comics. And I remember I had one dream that was so vivid, and it was so colourful. The colours in the dream were so bright and it was really, really intense. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to give one of them up, and it had to be Audible, but because I was so immersed in it, and it was around the time when I was reading the Diner episode, and it was too much.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
There can be too much Gaiman at some point, I suppose. Since you're all in a room together, I feel like I have to ask. Death, Lucifer, and Constantine walk into a bar. What are you drinking, and who's paying?
I think that Lucifer's probably loaded. So it's a drop in the ocean for Lucifer. Yeah, Lucifer's picking up the tab, no problem.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And what's his Constantine drink?
Whiskey, beer, something hard liquor only.
Okay, fair. And Death?
Tequila, for sure. She's a party girl. She knows how to party while she's here.
I could totally see that. Kirby, I know everyone loves Death because she's literally the opposite of the Grim Reaper. Did playing her shift your own perspective on how we tend to view death culturally?
Yeah, absolutely, because with something like death, it's an idea that most people are so fearful of and spend their entire life avoiding, even though it's kind of the only guaranteed part of our life. So in getting a role like this, you are forced to forensically examine death, both in what that means for you personally and what that has meant, historically and globally. And because, there's so much mythology and folklore and things like that about it. So I gained a deeper insight into death than I ever would have if I didn't get this role.
And now let's talk Lucifer. She is so glam, but there's a lot going on. Tangibly speaking, was it difficult to move around the set with the wings and the whole how did that work?
The costume is spectacular. The wings are truly extraordinary. I am very fortunate in that I have a long history with ostentatious garments, and it seems to be what I was born to do.
So you know how to manage it, know how to get your way around.
I take a great pleasure from being able to wear something that I feel really encapsulates the character, really delivers a narrative and a story, and enhances the audience experience of who Lucifer is. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but all those things inform you as an actor. And there's a great pleasure in taking up space, particularly for me as a female actor. I think it is interesting to enter that realm, which is about being unashamed, about size, about force of character, and to play a role that is about those things and integrating them in a strange way, in a bloodless and bureaucratic and brittle way. It was fascinating to me, and it was so radically different from anything I've done before that I relished the opportunity, and I was so supported in all ways, especially creatively, by Alan Heinberg and Neil. And Neil was very trusting and deeply collaborative, and it was a genuinely wonderful experience to work with everybody.
And Jenna, I'm curious for you, because Constantine gets to appear, without giving anything away, gets to appear in different places at different times. Mm-hmm. What was sort of the most incredible practical set that you got to work in, that you just walked in and went, this is a world that I'm in right now?
Oh, I mean, obviously, the contemporary Joanna Constantine who we meet, we're very much set in contemporary London. But we filmed at Greenwich naval bases in particular, and it's the most exquisite room. But it's where one of the first exorcisms is. And just walking into that, it looks so cinematic and filmic, and the art department kind of built loads more. There was something quite like quite Beauty and the Beast about it, like fairy tale and gothic, and just sort of like with all of the paintings on the wall, the murals everywhere. I think that was one of the most exquisite locations. But I did get to sneak around a lot of the other sets as well.
So this is your first big international series, yes? And then Stephen, you've done everything in existence. But I'm curious, what did each of you learn, possibly something new, from working together?
Oh gosh.
Well, I won't spare your blushes. I was blown away by Vanessa's talent and control. And you know, when you're a young person doing a huge series that is financially incredibly important to the producer team that's making it, that is artistically and personally important to the creative team that's making it, and that could make you famous and give you a great career, which it will, it would be very understandable if you were either a bit scared or a bit sort of overconfident and too pleased with yourself. But she is a really rare kind of just a brilliant actress who gets on. I should say actor these days, obviously. Sorry, but you know, who, you know, you never made a fuss. You just got on with it. It was brilliant to watch. You could have been doing it all your life.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I learned so much that like trying to recall everything I learned is very hard. It's the kind of thing that I think, you know, years down the line, you just feel it popping up and you'll be like, oh gosh, I remember this. And then, oh yeah. I think he was just really great to work with, and he's very hilarious. And he was, you know, he always had a story to tell. So there's so much information that I have taken into my brain that my brain will reveal to me in the future.
Aww.
There was, Stephen, a really great comment that a Redditor, someone on Reddit, had written about you when it was announced who you were playing in this series. They said, my God, he's perfect. That is the Stephen Fryest role in the whole series. So I'm curious, what do you think you have most in common with your character and least in common?
Well, I mean, in as much as one expression of the character I play is this character Gilbert, who is himself based on G.K. Chesterton, the writer, Gilbert Keith Chesterton, the early 20th century British writer, whom Neil Gaiman worshipped and whom I kind of worshipped when I was young too. So it was an opportunity to express some of the bountiful good nature of Chesterton, who was famous for being a kind of roast beef and beer type of Englishman, as opposed to an intellectual wine and cigar Englishman, if you know what I mean. He was a very much down and dirty kind of figure who found truth in paradox, and I think that's something that I loved about him, and if people saw that in me, then I'm greatly complimented. But also, he was a big man, let's be honest. There's a line in Woodhouse where he says somewhere in the 1920s, when a sound came to his ears which could only have been G.K. Chesterton falling on a corrugated iron roof. Because Chesterton was one of the largest people of his generation. There's that. That's a strange answer. I will leave you to Vanessa, who will have more sensible things to say.
I think we have time for one more question. Vanessa, have you had a particularly memorable fan interaction since it came out that you are starring in this series and who you are starring as?
Oh, wow. I will say I haven't had many fan interactions. I saw a few articles saying that they couldn't even find my social media. I mean, I'm right there, so I don't know like where they were looking. But there is this, I have had a few, like at Comic-Con, you know, a few people, you know, wanted to take pictures, and that was really nice. There's this girl actually who messaged me. She lives in Brazil. She's called Pamela, and she has just shown me so much support. It's like there's no one. There's no one, but like she is there, and she is very strongly supportive, and I just appreciate that.
Well, I imagine Pamela will be one of many. So thank you so much, you guys. Congratulations. What a series. I hope you feel really proud of what you've accomplished.
Lovely
you so
talking to
much.
you. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.